and welcome everyone to Talent500 YouTube channel. I am Soumya, a software engineer and an educator. In this tutorial, I will talk about the important interview questions of Kotlin. This is part 2 of the interview series for Kotlin. And yes, again we will discuss some very important questions of this concept. So let's get started. In the interview series of Kotlin part 2, the very first question is when to use the late init keyword in Kotlin. So the late init keyword, if we break it down into two parts, so the two parts are late and init means initialization, that is late initialization. And what do we initialize usually? We usually initialize variables, right? We usually initialize variables. So basically late init keyword is used to initialize the variables. Let's say you want to give value to the variable somewhere later in the project, like you don't have an idea of what will be the exact value you want to assign some value to it later. Latent keyword especially allows you to avoid initializing a property when an object is constructed. It is used to declare those variables which are guaranteed to be initialized in the future. There are many use cases, there are many examples of this when you don't want the variable to be initialized at this spot, like when you are declaring it. It's often like in many of the big projects as well, you don't have a clarity of if the variable should be initialized right now or later. So in those cases you can use this very handy keyword, that is late init keyword in Kotlin. Okay, and normally like properties declared as having non-null type must be initialized in the constructor. It is rule. If you don't give it a value, if you don't give a value to the variable, it will throw error, right? So just for your convenience, for developers, for the ease of writing code, this keyword is very, very handy. Okay, so let me give you a quick example as well, so you understand things in a much better way. So how will you exactly use it? Let's say you are creating a variable pencil count, okay, where pencil count, okay, and now if you won't give a value to it, I'm giving it the type string, so it will expect some value from you, right? They are saying that this property must be initialized, or it should be abstract, right? If I give it a value, let's say pencil count is somewhere 8, I have 8 pencils, right? So in this case they are pretty fine, they are happy. But if I don't initialize it, it is throwing error. If I add late init keyword here, so you see the error is gone. Why it's gone? Because I gave instruction to this variable that hey, you will be initialized later. Late init, that is you will be initialized somewhere later in the project. So later, after writing some piece of code, let's say you are doing something here, some piece of code. So this is Android Studio, by the way, if you are not able to recognize the IDE, because heavily Kotlin is used in application development, Android application development. So I thought of using Android Studio only to explain you everything. Okay, so now later I can give it some value. Let's say now I'm sure that okay, pencil count should be maybe 7, so I'll give it 7, right? So this way you can use the late init keyword if you want to give value to the variable, not exactly at the time of declaring it, but somewhere later. Perfect. I hope this late init keyword is all clear to you. And now moving ahead, let me again screencast the iPad and move on to the second question for this series. So it is a follow-up question exactly. How to check if a late init variable has been initialized or not initialized. So might be that you have to fetch value from the variable which is declared using late init keyword, right? So how will you exactly check if it has a value or not? So you can check if the late init variable has been initialized or not before using it with the help of this keyword, which is It is not exactly keyword, it is actually method. Okay, in built-in method initialized. This is a method which you can use to confirm if the variable has been initialized or not. Otherwise, you might get those null errors, right? Null exceptions that, okay, like your variable is null, we are getting null value. So in Kotlin, though, we have very good strategies to handle these null errors as well. But again, like why to do something with null values, yeah? So this method is initialized, will help, will return true if the latent property has been initialized. Otherwise, it will return false. And let me give you a quick example of how you can use it. So let's say I have to use pencil count again, right? So what I can do is, like, I can check if this has been initialized or not. I'll put some if condition, right? If pencil count dot is initialized, is initialized, use the keyword this as well here so that it picks up this pencil count. I hope you already know about this keyword, it is very commonly used, right? Is initialized. So again, I'll check like if this variable has been initialized or not, and then only I will do some operation whatever I want to do on top of this variable. You can do one more thing, like you can print true or false. If I say print, and you can copy paste this, so it will return true if it has been initialized. So at this point it will return false. Why? Because it has not been initialized, right? But if I do the same thing here, then it will return true. Because why? Because here I assigned a value 7 to this, right? So print, here it will give false, but at this point it will return true. So I hope this is clear to you. A latent keyword, never forget it. It's very, very significant when we talk about interviews, especially if you're going for Kotlin, for Android application development roles. It's very significant that you know about latent keyword. It's very, very handy because many cases are there when you don't want to assign value at the spot when declaring the variable, right? So it is lifesaver in those situations. Just put latent, that is, I will assign you some value later, I will initialize you late, and that's it. It's pretty much self-explanatory as well. And in case you want to check if the latent variable has been initialized or not, for that you can just use this method, which is initialized. In this case it will return false, and here it will return true because we have given a value to this variable. Perfect. And now moving ahead, let me again screencast my iPad and we will talk about another significant question in this series. So the third question is, all right, what are the different types of constructors available in Kotlin, and explain them with proper example. So mainly there are these two constructors in Kotlin, always remember. Number one, primary constructor, and number two, your secondary constructor. Okay, so primary constructor, like, it's a concise way to initialize a class, and secondary constructor, it allows you to put additional initialization logic. Okay, so if I talk about primary constructor, it is very concise way of initializing the classes. Okay, initializing the classes. And about secondary, and somewhere the names are always self-explanatory, like it's primary, it's very concise and simple way to initialize a class, yeah. And secondary constructor, it allows you to put additional stuff. What additional stuff? I'll explain with the help of example. It allows you to put additional initialization logic. If you have to, let's say, give multiple parameters, a lot many varieties there, then in that case you will go ahead with secondary constructor. Otherwise primary constructor should be your go to for initializing the classes. Yeah, the primary constructor is part of the class header. Let me give you an example here only. So paper, and let's say I have a class person. Yes, and here if I give some parameters, let's say val, you already should be knowing that these are the keywords we use for variables. First name of type, let's say string. Yeah, and then we have age of the person, age of type int. Okay, and then here comes your class body, here comes your class body. So the block of the code surrounded by parentheses is the primary constructor. So this one is surrounded by parentheses, right? So this is your primary constructor, that is this one. Cool. I hope this is clear. What is primary constructor? Very easy and simple. So the constructor uh, declared using the two properties, that is first for the name of the person, it is val, that is it is read only property. It is declared uh, using val keyword. That means it cannot be changed. Val is not modifiable. Yeah, and age is also, age is var, not val, so age you can modify. Yeah, if you want this also to be not changeable later in the project, then again use the val keyword. Okay, that will make it read only property. Hmm? Okay, so with the help of var you can like again change the value if you want later in the project. So if you want to, let's say, create a person in your main function or something, let's say you have a main function main, and you have some parameters here as well, and you want to create a person using this class. So what you can do, val person1 is equal to person, and then you can give some value like let's say Soumya is my name, right? Soumya, and age 23. So again in the same way, val person2, then you'll use the class person and then the values. Perfect. I hope this much part is clear. So in Kotlin, a class can also contain one or more secondary constructor, and they are created using the constructor keyword. Let me tell you, constructor keyword is there. Constructor keyword. So what this constructor, I mean, let's say if you want multiple kind of constructors, like one or more secondary constructor, then this constructor keyword is heavily used. So secondary constructor come into picture now only when you have to when there are many examples, there are many use cases where you have to use multiple constructors. Yeah, if you just have to use simple one constructor, you can go this way, right? Otherwise you have to use the constructor keyword. Secondary constructors are not very common in Kotlin, I would say. The most common use of secondary constructor comes up when you need to extend a class that provides multiple constructor that initialize the class in different ways. I'll give you an example and that will help you understand it in a better way. So let's say you have a class log. Yeah, class name is log. Okay, and in this, for this class you want multiple constructor. Let's say this is constructor 1, or I'm writing just constructor, and you have to give some data. Okay, and this is the body of the constructor. Some code you will write here, right? Code. And again you want another constructor because maybe you want one variable to be string of type string, and the other, let's say, count of data of type int. Yeah, so in that case, see what's happening here. You are expecting two constructor, first and second. This one is having only one parameter, but this is having two parameters. One is of type string, the other is of type integer, right? Of type integer. So this is a good example of secondary constructor. Let's say now you want to, so here the log class has two secondary constructor. These are the two secondary constructors, but it is not having primary constructor, because and when you use two constructor, multiple constructor using the keyword constructor, then the, I mean, the concept of primary constructor is gone, obviously, right? And you can, like, based on your need, you can extend the class as well. Let's say uh, you want to extend the class log. Maybe you have another class auth log something, and you want to extend the class log. Yeah. So here, how will you use both the constructor? Let's say at this point you want to use the first constructor, and here you want to use the second constructor. So how will you exactly do that? You will just do this constructor, constructor keyword, and then data of type is string, and you will simply extend it using the super keyword and pass here the data. Yeah. And if you want to extend the second constructor, then you will put the string type here, then you will put int type here, because here you can see we had a second variable of type int, right? And then super keyword should be small only, and then again you will give two variables here, data and the count of data. That's it. It's as simple as that. So here the constructors of the derived class auth log calls the corresponding constructor of the base class, that is log. Yeah. And for that purpose we use the super keyword. Pretty simple. I mean, this was extended use actually. You just need to understand this. For secondary constructor, which are not very common in Kotlin, you have to use the constructor keyword. And after that, what you have to do? Let's say you want multiple type of parameters in the constructor. So here just one parameter of type string, and then two parameters. One is of type string, then int. Awesome. Let's move ahead. And the very next thing is explain the various methods to iterate over any data structure in Kotlin with examples. Okay, this is pretty simple and straightforward. I mean, if you already are in the tech domain, you would be knowing for iterating over data, we mainly have three things. We use the for loop, we have while, and we have do while as well. So these are the most commonly used ways, these are most commonly used techniques to iterate over any data structure in Kotlin, right? I hope I don't need to explain this. I mean, the syntax are very, very clear, very much similar to what you already have been doing in other languages like C++, Java, Python, any language that you are coming from. So for loop, you have a syntax like this. You give here three initialization. Let's say you have I controller, so you will initialize it, then you will put some condition, some controller, and you will then increment or decrement it to change the value, and then here comes the body. Yeah, for loop is very, very simple. Again, for while, you have to do while this condition is true, keep on doing this thing. Yeah. And for do while, do this thing, like code will come here, do this while this condition is true, while some xyz condition is true. Perfect. So I hope this is also clear to you, right? So these syntaxes are very much these are same across all languages. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are writing code in JavaScript, in C++, these are almost everywhere same. Yeah. So while is very, very easy to understand and straightforward, and do while as well, like just keep on doing these things while some expression, something holds true. And here the while condition comes at the top. Like first they'll check if this is true, then only they'll come here. Here they'll do this, and after that they'll check if this is true or not. Yeah. Awesome. And in for loop, everything comes with the like in one go, I would say. Yeah. All right. So moving ahead, how can you concatenate two strings in Kotlin? Again, very interesting, easy yet very interesting question. So let me tell you, these are the let's say what is concatenation. First of all, what is concatenation? Let's say I want to write talent and 500. These are the two strings I'm having. This is a string 1 and this is a string 2, and I want to combine both of these together to make the final string str, and it should be talent 500 together. This is concatenation. Like first string, this is a string 1, second this is a string 2. After concatenation, it should be this is a string 1, this is a string 2. Perfect. So there are again three ways of doing concatenation of there are three ways of combining two strings together. Yeah. The very first way is use a string interpolation, or a very simple friendly way is, let's say you want str1, right? Here you wanted a string to be combination of a string 1 and 2, so you can simply do something like a string 1 plus a string 2. That's it. This is the second way, using the plus or the plus operator. And again, string builder is also there. It is common across multiple programming languages. And to be honest, the syntax of Kotlin is not like very much different if we compare it with other languages like Java, Python. Now, if you already know these languages, then it would be very easy for you to explain how things are done in Kotlin. Very few things are different, like we saw here, this one, like the late init keyword, for example, right? So this is dedicated to Kotlin. Late init keyword, it is, you will rarely find it in other languages. They might be having such similar keyword, but especially this is here in Kotlin. Other stuff, like if you talk about constructors, so primary constructors, secondary constructors are kind of similar across languages. You might feel that this constructor keyword, this concept is new, and that's why I gave you example here, like this is class log and then you have two constructors here, something like that. And if you have to extend it, if you have to use that class, then you can use their constructor in this way here, right? For iterating over data, it's again very very similar as it is in any other programming language like Java, C++, etc. For loop is syntax is same again. For while and do while also, it's pretty much similar. In concatenation of two strings as well, the syntax is very very similar as in other languages, right? Perfect. So let me quickly give you example of this, like how to do a string interpolation, or how to use a string builder when we come in the project, how we exactly practically implement it. So practical implementation obviously helps you understand things in a better way, right? So for a string interpolation, let me give you a very interesting example. A string interpolation. Let's remove all these piece of code that we use to understand late in it. Yeah, I'm removing this variable as well. And now let's talk about a string interpolation. So what exactly is done here? Let's say I have a function, a fun, and the name is person. Okay, yeah. So I'll create some random parameters here for this. Age of type int, right? I want like age and name of the person, yeah, to be returned with the help of this function. Perfect. So I'll say return name of the person, name of the person is, I will use $sign here. So $sign in Kotlin, it's very very handy. So you don't have to do anything, just write name of the person is $name. So what it will do, it will get the exact value of the name variable, yeah. And age is $age. So here I can call this function person, and I'll give some value to it. Let's say I'll give name as Talent500 and age as, let's say, 12. It's a random kind of parameter that I'm giving here. So okay, they are expecting the return type of the function to be string here because I'm returning a string, right? So they're giving me again some like hints that you can improve the code by making the function private, etc. That's fine. So our main goal here, our main motto here is like to understand this part only, that is string interpolation. You can kind of concatenate multiple strings together using this kind of syntax. Yeah, talking about the other way, I mean using the plus method, it's very simple actually. Let me show you how it works. So let's say I have I'll create some values here only. So val a is equal to talent, yeah, and val b is equal to 500. I want to combine both of these together, and I want that to be the result variable. So val result is equal to a dot plus space, also I want between these two. So a dot plus space dot plus b, that is the second variable, right? 500. So this will give me talent 500 with a space in between. And the other way is again very simple. I mean, instead of this plus method, you can just use the plus operator. That will do the same thing. Val result 2, let me show you. Val result 2 is equal to a plus space and plus b. That's it. It's as simple as it looks. So now moving ahead, I'll show you quickly what a string builder is. We talked about a string builder as well, right? So a string builder, let me create the builder variable here. Val builder is equal to a string builder. This is the method, actually built-in method. Yeah, I've created a variable of type string builder, removing all these pieces of code. And after that, you can just append whatever you want to add. Let's say I want to print I'm happy. Yeah, so I can write here I am, and then again dot append I am very happy to learn new things. Yeah, so these are the kind of three ways using which we can coordinate two strings or like multiple strings together. Yeah, so if you want to print it, so you can do like builder print and then builder dot to string, something like that. Yeah, string. So it's very simple actually, concatenation of two strings. I hope from late init variable to this point to concatenation, everything is crisp and clear to you. All the very best for your next interview. I hope you will rock. Keep on learning. Thank you for watching the interview series of Talent 500. I hope this detailed tutorial was helpful for you. If yes, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to Talent 500 YouTube channel. In case you have any doubts, any queries, drop them in the comment section below and we will be happy to answer them. See you in the next tutorial.